This is the Paltalk News Network.
The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users, on demand on iTunes and on YouTube, and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not, and where you should be subscribing to my Twitter feed, twitter.com/GaryBaumgarten, where you'll hear stories and read stories that you may not see, hear, or watch in the mainstream media. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show. If you took a look at the PaltalkNewsNetwork.com site today, you would have seen what I believe to be brilliant analysis from our correspondent in Dubai about the talks in Geneva today from the perspective of the Iranians. It actually talks about what the Americans were wanting when they went into the talks and what the Iranians were looking for when they went into the talks. You know, we don't talk very much about what the Iranians want in return. And I'm really thankful that we have that dispatch. There's also a piece there that includes a timeline of all the times that the Iranians have promised to do one thing and they've done another, with an explanation of why things work that way. And some of it has to do with previous dealings with the United States and their view of the United States, and some of it is cultural. I don't think we'll have time to go into great detail about that, but there are two great analyses that I encourage you to read today if you haven't already. They met today, the Primitive Five members of the Security Council and Germany, with Iran. And Iran, at the end, agreed to open up its nuclear facilities, including the one that they covertly built into the side of a mountain, to the IAEA inspectors. They also agreed to meet again with the United States and I guess maybe the other members of the Security Council and Germany before the end of the month, which is very encouraging news, at least on the surface, if you can believe what they have to say. The whole point of all this is to stop the continued proliferation of nuclear weapons in our world. Clearly, it's not something that we want to see any nation join the nuclear weapons family. The ones that we have are just enough to, you know, if they launched their weapons, kill us all over about 10 or 15 times anyway. So we don't need any more of those weapons potentially to fly around. Joining us to help analyze what's going on with all of this today is Leonor Tomero. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. If not, I know you'll correct it. She's Director for Nuclear... I said it right, Leonor, okay. Director for Nuclear Non-Proliferation at the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation in Washington, D.C. Leonor Tomero, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's great having you here. So you heard my little setup here, and you heard I guess, that I'm kind of a conflicted individual, and I think I'm a conflicted individual over this because I think the whole world is conflicted about Iran. I mean, we heard some good things today, but does that really mean anything?
Well, I think it was actually a good first step, and I think as you alluded to, it's going to be a long road, but I think, this is a very good step in setting the foundation for serious talks, and I think what the talks today reflected were that both sides came to the table in good faith, and of course they weren't going to solve the problem of Iran's nuclear program in one day, but certainly I think the fact that both sides sat down and had a serious talk and planned to meet again is the most we could have hoped for, and so that is an encouraging step.
I've been extremely harsh on this regime. You're obviously not a regular listener to this program, but I'm probably one of the biggest critics of the regime in Tehran today. But it was very interesting. One of the things that the analysis that to which I referred earlier reminded me was that during the Bush administration, the Iranians had offered to intervene in several conflicts around the world. They may have been conflicts that they were contributing to. And they sent a letter, I don't know exactly by what diplomatic pouch it arrived, because there's no direct communication supposedly between our government and the Iranian government before today, and I believe there was a face-to-face meeting for the first time in years, officially anyway. But in that time, they offered to help resolve some of the problems around the world, and by golly, they probably were in a position to resolve them because they were contributing to them if they were to be taken at face value. And the Bush administration didn't even reply. Are we, in some measure, not to excuse what the Iranians are doing, but are we, in some measure, we meaning our government, the government of the United States, responsible, at least in part, for the nuclear arms race that Iran is evidently involved in?
Well, I wouldn't phrase it that way. I think Iran's violations are very serious, and I think we have to be clear that Iran has been found in noncompliance with its safeguards obligations, and this is not. Iran tries very hard to portray this as a division between the West and the United States and Iran, but in fact, I think Iran's nuclear program and the fact that it's failed to come clean on what it's doing in its nuclear program has been of concern to the international community, and we've got the UN Security Council resolutions against Iran. So I wouldn't minimize the gravity of the concern here, and to put it a little bit in context, Iran is legally obligated to disclose the facilities, and the problem here on this enrichment facility in Qom was that Iran was under legal obligation to disclose this facility at the point where they decided to begin construction, and they did not do that. And so, and in addition to that, Iran has been asked by the International Atomic Energy Agency to provide a lot more transparency and to answer questions about its enrichment facility at Natanz and its activities, and Iran has not done so and has not fully cooperated with the international